a slide. We're going to start with the slideshow, I guess. Going through, and so today I had a hard time naming this workshop. So afterwards, I hope y'all help me think of a good name, a catchy name, because I'd like to offer this workshop more. So we'll see. Maybe in the evaluation, y'all could suggest a better name. But I'm calling it Nurturing Me and Strengthening Our Leadership. And we'll learn more how nurturing ourselves and doing self-care is going to help our leadership. So we're going to start by going around in a circle. This is just something to draw on. We can skip that, Tony. And great. So we're going to go around the circle and check and see who else here in this list, and we'll move names or add names if we need to. Sorry, my slideshow's in the screen over here, so I'll look over here. I'm sorry. Just going to go around and say your name and one thing you do for relaxation. And now that we've come off the Christmas holidays, maybe that'll be up in people's minds. So I'll begin. Of course, I'm Linda. And one thing I do for relaxation is listening to very soothing music. Maria, would you like to start?
Yes, I love playing the guitar, and I haven't done that for some time. So I hope that I can do that in 2019 to nurture me.
Thank you. Q2? Oh, you're on mute.
Yes. Actually, I love to go to the beaches. Like Bombay has a lot of beaches, so I try to spend some time with the nature, or go towards those isolated beaches sometimes. Yeah.
Wonderful. Karima?
Actually, for relaxation, what I do is pray or meditate.
Right. Subi? I don't know if she can hear me. Inoue?
Hi, my name is Inoue, and to play piano.
Wonderful.
And for my granddaughter.
Yeah. Subi? Can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I love to have a long hot water bath.
Yes. Sorry?
I really enjoy spending time in the mountains.
Oh, great. What mountains?
The closest ones to me right now is the Shenandoah.
Nice. Oh, beautiful. Biswadip?
Hi, drumming and dancing.
Wonderful. Monica?
I agree with Karima. I pray, and I like sitting with a cup of coffee or tea and just kind of looking out the window.
Mm-hmm. Mohammed?
My name is Mahmoud for relaxation.
Sorry, Mohammed.
Sorry. Are you hearing me?
Yeah, go ahead. Yep.
Good?
Yes, good.
Yeah, my name is Mahmoud. I like to listen blues music.
Great. Karen?
Hi, I like singing.
Tracy Chapman.
Oh, yeah. Love Tracy.
Cool. I like singing. I find singing my heart out really relaxes me. I also enjoy hiking and time in the mountains like you, Sari. And meditation is a very quick and present and easy one for me that I do often, not just once a day, but sometimes a few times during the day, depending on what's happening. Thank you.
Great, great. Abraham.
Yeah, thank you. I find great relaxation when I am with children. Children of the KG classes in the school, I play with them, and that is great.
That's wonderful. Matt? Maybe
Matt
Matt's
wrote,
writing in.
he wrote scuba diving.
Oh,
in the
wow,
chat.
scuba diving. Yes, I see that. Okay, and Alice, welcome.
Thank you. I apologize for being a little bit late. My name is Alice, and I like to go for a walk.
Nice. Okay. So we'll get started now with our training by lighting our candle, if you have one. And if you don't, I think Tony will share one with you. I've got mine right here. If I can get my thing working. There we go. There we go. So.
I'm so happy to see that everybody's here. Yay!
Yes, it's wonderful.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Yeah, thank you.
You, Alice.
So, the way we're going to do our opening today is I'm going to ask for 6 volunteers to read a quote that we'll put up on the slideshow. So if you can't see the screen very well, right here, don't volunteer, but who's 6 volunteers I can call on? Raise your hand. Karen, Katub, Subi, Monica. Hey, Despina. Hi. Hi. Good to see you. Sari. 1, 2, 3, 4. One more? Oh, Karima. Great. Okay. So, Sari, would you read our first quote?
As you breathe in, cherish yourself. As you breathe out, cherish all beings. His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama.
And what I'd like for us to do is just pause a minute after each one and maybe reread it or take it in. Just think about what you heard. Okay, Karen.
Friendship with oneself is all important because without it, one cannot be friends with anyone else in the world. Eleanor Roosevelt.
Okay, Qtube.
When we demand perfection of ourselves, we disconnect from our heart. And when we demand that of others, we disconnect from them as well. Profound loneliness infuses a culture based on not being good enough. Sushi Morgan.
Hey, Monica.
Sorry. It is lack of love for ourselves that inhibits our compassion towards others. If we make friends with ourselves, then there is no obstacle to opening our hearts and minds to others.
Thank you. Karima.
Having compassion starts and ends with having compassion for all those unwanted parts of ourselves. The healing comes from letting there be room for all of this to happen. Room for grief, for relief, for misery, for joy. Pema Chodron.
And who was the last volunteer I didn't call on?
Me.
Yes. Thank you.
Caring for myself is not self-indulgence. It is self-preservation. And that is an act of political warfare. Audre Lorde.
Thank you. I love that one. Caring for myself is not self-indulgence. It is self-preservation and an act of political warfare. So why are we here today? We're going to be exploring self-care and a vision for our personal health, physically, emotionally, environmentally, and spiritually, whatever you need it to be. And so for this session, we're going to be thinking about ourselves. And some people might find that a little uncomfortable, but hopefully by the end of the session, you will understand why it's so important why it's so important to do this and take this time for ourselves. So after, we'll be talking about self-care and then doing some visioning around self-care. And I'm going to ask us today to really try to go from our heart space and speak our truth, be willing to be vulnerable with each other, because this is, you know, when we start talking about ourselves, all kinds of messages start coming up about how that's selfish or wrong. And in fact, I think you'll learn by the end of this session why it's so critical for us to be good leaders and good examples out in the world by taking care of ourselves. I also just want to say that in this kind of workshop, a lot of things start percolating that you may think about later. More things may bubble up and more insights might come after this session. And you should expect that and give time for that. I'm also hoping that you'll be able to start sharing this kind of information and training with your colleagues and your CCs and volunteers, etc. And then I have a special request that everybody please do the evaluation at the end of this. This is the first time I've tried to do a workshop like this online. And it's going to be really interesting to see how such a personal workshop connects with each other as we're online, and how can we hold that energy with each other. And so an evaluation would be incredibly helpful, because I hope to offer this to more activists and leaders in the world. Any questions before we dig in? Okay, great. So we're going to start out by, let me say one more thing. I want to appreciate Subi and Alice for our pre-check-in to the training and sparking lots of ideas and questions that helped me form this. And Subi's actually going to be helping us with this next session. So we're going to be talking about what is burnout. Do people know what burnout means? Does anyone not know what burnout means? And I'm going to talk about that term because there's a lot of different levels of burnout. So Subi, why don't you tell us your story that you shared with me?
So last month, I was like completely burnt out. And when I say burnt out, to me means existing on a survival mode. I was disconnected. There was so many times when I was procrastinating. Simple things looked very difficult to me. I was exhausted and tired emotionally, physically, psychologically. And it was a very, very rough phase. with all the kind of work that we do in the community and at the administrative level, and personally with a lot of boxing and unboxing that we continue to face, there's a lot that we continue to absorb, and sometimes it can actually pull you down and sometimes it can actually motivate you. But I think with all that was happening in my professional and personal space, there was a complete exhaustion that I was facing. And some of the colleagues on this call also know about it, and I'm grateful that they were the ones to kind of push me out through it. So that's what burnout to me meant. And this year when it started, it was not a resolution because I don't take New Year resolutions. But when, this week, Linda and me got on a call and we were generally talking, and, we were wishing how New Year looked like. The first thing that I told her was that this year I've started to do self-care. And it was just so, it was such a big coincidence that she said, oh, you know what, the next session is actually going to be on this. And we really laughed and we spoke so extensively about it, because I said there's so much that we carry in our heart, and that it's so important as peace builders that there needs to be this element of self-care where there is some time to kind of reflect and rejuvenate for ourselves, and enrich ourselves. So I think that's a bit of my story.
Yeah. So there's a lot of levels of burnout. We often think of burnout as when people are totally done and are leaving work, but there's actually, Subi's experience is much more a common form of burnout. But I remember when I was 27 and I was doing this work and I was so just crazy working. I couldn't stop. It's all I could think about was work. I slept work. I woke up thinking of work, and I was working on peace and nuclear disarmament. And one of my heroines at the time was a woman named Helen Caldecott, and she had run Women's International League for Peace and Freedom. And then she had started a new organization, Women's Action for Nuclear Disarmament, or WAND. And she was an incredible speaker. She was working with physicians for nuclear disarmament and doing all these amazing things. And she was my model, my hero, and she could work 40 hours a day. So, and I said 40 hours a day on purpose because it seems like that. And I thought I needed to be like her, but I was really close to just wearing myself out and being sick and that kind of thing. And she came to North Carolina to speak, and she announced at that point that she was leaving all of her work and she was going to go home. And I was devastated. And when the newspaper was interviewing her, they said, well, what are you going to go do now? Thinking she was going to start a new organization or something. And she said, oh, I'm going to go back home and I'm just going to take milk baths. And at first I was so angry at her for working to a point that she couldn't work anymore. And then I thought about it and thought, okay, I've been following her example, and if I don't change something, I'm going to be like her and totally burn out and not be able to work at all. And so I made a commitment that day when I was 27 years old that I would take a bubble bath. I didn't know what a milk bath was, but I would take a bubble bath every day. And I have kept that commitment now for, I don't know, I'm going to be 65 in a couple weeks. And so however many years that is, 38, I think, years. I was running around this morning and hardly didn't have time, and I spent 10 minutes taking a bubble bath, which is the least amount of time I can do. But that was I was close to burnout, and I've been close to burnout many times, like Subi talked about. But just being able to pull back and have tools in my tool chest of what I can do to take care of myself. So I'd love to throw that out to you. Have you been in this kind of situation? What's your burnout story? What's it like to see others you admire burn out or suffering from burnout? Who would like to share? I know other people have been there. Karen? You have to unmute.
Yeah. I can share. I ran a practice which I worked in for 5 years, very successful practice, and saw clients 5-6 times a day and taught at night twice a week and Saturdays as well. And eventually I got so sick from burnout, and it wasn't the first time. That was the first time I had it, and I went and did that again about 8 years later. I went and did the same thing again, and now I know the warning signs, and now I know what to do, and that's why self-care is really important. I don't take life as seriously as I used to. I don't take myself as seriously as I used to, and and realize that tomorrow the sun will still come up. Tomorrow there'll still be food in my cupboard and petrol in my car, and I'll still move. And you learn to what's the word? Stop sweating the small stuff. But it was a big lesson in self-care. I was doing so much for other people and not taking care of myself. Everyone else was more important. I took phone calls in the middle of the night from people, and I just had no boundaries. And I think one of the biggest things I learned was to put boundaries in and learning to say no. Thank you.
That's really great. Boundaries. Yeah. Have others experienced this or something similar? This what, Deb?
I'm, adding to what Karen just ended, the putting boundaries. I'm learning now. I didn't experience so far deeply burnt out things in my life, but because, I work 3 nights, 4 nights, and the next morning, 4 o'clock, I go to my friend and say, hey, let's do it. They said, what? Last 3 days we've been doing the music over 3 nights. And you're in the morning talking about going out to this event? I said, well, so what's wrong? I mean, do you feel it in your body? But, I was exhausted. The basic things is really to understand and to really allow your both the physical body and your spirit to be aligned with it. And I'm adding to further, like really to know where to put the boundaries. Mm-hmm. And what I'm learning, but also doing something very passionately, not with the physical, because working with people in the community, it can be such an energy sapping. When you are with so many people, you are meeting with people of different energies. It's not that bad, but when energies crosses, it can deplete your energies. And that's how mostly all of us working in the community have the tendency to burn out. But I think it's a really ongoing process of attending to our spiritual energies to release. So it's kind of a protection. So when you showed the first slide of nurturing, I immediately resonate to what the nurturing is not a one-time process. It's a circular process within ourselves. And that's what I'm learning now, and also putting a boundaries physically, knowing that I would go this far. And then what? So it really helps a lot when understand that how my inner body responds to my physical activities. And, this is really helping me these days.
Great. And I think it's important that you, a piece of your story was that other people recognized it and were going, what are you doing? Right. That's really a helpful thing. And someone else, yes, Monica.
The other night I was feeling burnout and wrote to Maria. Thank you, Maria. And it was really looking at our work plan. And I'd been pretty much in all of family mode through December and just trying to shift back into getting done what needed to get done and other things. And so the first thing I do usually is distract from what I really need to do and do something else. And we took down our Christmas tree. And then I decided we were going to rearrange our living room. And I stood back and I told Muse this morning, in 13 years, I have not had my living room any other way other than when the Christmas tree is in there.
Mm-hmm.
But by rearranging the furniture, I said, well, if I can do that, I can fit my life in these little boxes.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes.
And I literally had very little written that was constructive, and I think I made a quantum change there, Maria. And I was telling Muse that I don't know what changing the living room furniture had to do with anything, but it had everything to do with it. And it reminded me of your slide of that I just really have treasured, bumping your head against the brick wall, knowing that that field is out in front and there's an open door, but how do you move from bumping your head against the brick wall, getting to the door and through the threshold? And so that image has been very positive for me, Linda. I thank you. And I have no idea what furniture moving did, but it did.
Yes, yes. I don't know how many got to see or got to read the article of the book, but I tell a story in there of a woman who's a volunteer in the community, and they came for a 3-day workshop and it was about this, on self-care and that kind of thing, and personal visioning. And she was embarrassed about her vision because it felt so dumb to her. Her garage was piled to the ceiling with stuff, and she wanted to clean out her garage, and she thought this was a ridiculous thing for her vision, but she was able to identify how it kept her stuck and had all this negative energy for her. And when she went home, she actually cleaned out and people from the community who heard this confession came and helped her. And she said after, it just freed up her spirit so much to do more organizing work, and allowed her to just this burden off her back that was keeping her from being able to do that. So I really appreciate the moving of furniture and how much that can actually help free up other things by making those sort of what you don't quite know why it frees stuff up, but it does. Who else? Another story?
I can share. So I actually have I'll share a little bit about myself, but I actually have a really refreshing story from a friend who was a social worker and started having some really physical symptoms of burnout. Like she was feeling faint, like in the middle of the day at work, and couldn't drive, and really she ended up having to make a decision to step away from her work. And seeing her do that, and then in the past 6 months really taking care of herself, and it was just really cool to watch. Even within a week or two of her stepping away from that job, she started realizing that she was really passionate about another area and started pursuing education in that area, and has since started a small business. And you just see the difference in her, and her feeling really excited about this work, and something that she just couldn't have conceived, I think, 6 months ago. So that's been a really positive example for me of seeing her, really take care of herself. Personally, I've started a practice in the past couple of months of journaling that has been really helpful. Just 5 or 10 minutes at the beginning of the day, not long, but it was suggested to me to just kind of think through my day, and vision my day, and vision what might be difficult for me, or what might be a hurdle for me in the day, what might come up, and then already decide, in that moment, how am I going to respond, and envision how I'll get through something. And that's been a really helpful practice for me, to just start the day feeling like I've already tackled the problems that I'm going to face. Now there's, unexpected ones that come up, but it just helps me feel more prepared.
That's great, Sarah. Thank you. I thought I saw Abraham's hand. Yes. Hi, Abraham.
Yeah. Usually, I don't feel like being burned out, but recently, when we were in the forefront of the flood and doing a lot of relief activities, the supply was very little and the demand was so high. And we could see the suffering of so many people who have lost their family members and their friends and all. That was really giving a kind of feeling that I was really burned out, because we could do only a little when there was so much of demand. And so to see the suffering of so many families and people, who never thought about something would happen in their life, that feeling was something very difficult to cope up with. So that was a time when I really felt I was burned out.
I think Abraham brings up such an important part, because I know for myself, when there's that kind of, I remember this in Katrina, when there's so much suffering, it feels actually selfish to take time for yourself, or to think about, I need some nurturing personally, and why would we do that? And I think this is really an important thing to understand, because I know when you get on a plane and fly, they say, if the oxygen comes down, put it on you first and then help your child or the next person. And always, when I had young children, I always wondered about that, if I could do that, could put it on myself. And then it was explained that, the reason they tell you that is, because you can lose air and not even be aware of it, and all of a sudden you can't help the person next to you if you haven't taken care of yourself first. So I think that's a really important thing that you brought up, Abraham. And when we're in the face of such despair, how do we take time for ourselves? So in a way, and then Alice, and then we'll close up this part, I think. And we'll have more time to talk.
Okay. My story is recently. It was in Christmas time in December, because there were different things pushing me. First, the economical situation of Venezuela now, and I have my assistant at the university, the secretary, and people who are suffering much than me, and don't having the possibilities to help them economically in this survival step of their life. Also, we have a lot of work with the plan, because I wanted to accomplish it as they asked us, this new form, and it was a lot of work additional, to the daily situation. And plus, I have water pipes problems in my house. So having here workers, finding where was the problem, and dirty and cleaning, so it was too much. Plus the political situation, because we have as a president very, very bad leader. So it was a lot of things at the same time, looking for food, because it's very difficult now here in Venezuela to find food.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of things pushing into my life. Thanks God, I say to me, okay, your space is, now you have to do daily, to meditate daily, and to start again yoga. And I started to do this to care myself, because I needed a space for myself. And even if I was tired, I prefer to work until 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, but to hold and to take care of my little granddaughter who gave me energy. And I know she gave me energy.
Great,
so
great.
It's the things I did to survive.
Thank you.
Those days.
Thank you. Alice?
Thanks, Linda. For me, when I think about burnout, really what I think about is stress. Like, to me, burnout is huge, terrible, awful. And what's more helpful for me is to notice when I start to get stressed, because that can really negatively impact everything. And I notice when I'm getting stressed if I feel like I'm extra emotional about something. So if I can feel that something's making me mad at work, or that something's making me feel fragile, or I feel like maybe crying, or I feel insecure about something, that's usually a sign that I'm stressed and I need more self-care. Because if I'm feeling good about self-care, then those things happen and I don't get distressed by them. I just feel like, oh, that's a thing that happened, but everything's okay. But if I'm stressed, then I am more susceptible to emotional responses. So that's a clue for me that I need to go for a walk or play the piano or something.
That's great. That's great. Thank you. Yeah, and I think another thing that was brought up is the feeling of that stress, but also not being able to say no is often a sign of burnout, when you are absolutely overwhelmed and you can't say no. And I appreciated Biswadeb saying that some other people spoke to them, and certainly my staff did. And Tony actually got more, really told me, he gave me a button that said no. And he thought, and he pushes it for me every once in a while.
Oh.
But it's
No! No, 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 no! 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 For the last time, no.
So I keep that button on my desk and I use it for myself every so often. And sometimes Tony pushes it for me to remind me I need to say no. So we're going to do a little energy exercise, and we're going to have another discussion. I love having these open discussions.
Linda,
we haven't done that very often.
Sorry, I think I see Despina raise her hand.
Despina, did you need to say something? Yes.
If we don't have time, I can leave.
Go ahead.
No, I'm happy you brought out this issue of burnout, because it is something that happens to me, and it is something that I'm learning on how to work around, especially because in Africa, as a woman, it is so cultural for you to be responsible for everything, and sometimes it affects you both physically and psychologically, and especially if you are in a responsibility like the one I have, like you head an institution, and you have so many responsibilities at place of work, but then when you go back home, you have to start from where you left. I have a house help at home, but that doesn't mean that when I go back, I have to sit. So I have to look into everything that happens at home. And then that coupled with the work that we do as URI, and I know all the RCs on this call can attest to that, and my brother Biswadeb also talked about it, the way how URI is structured, that each is doing something different, and they bring it to your table, And I remember there was a moment when Alice was telling me, you know what, then you stay home for that day and just rest and then come back. So this is something that I'm learning and in this, I'm happy that we talked about it, because there was a time when I was about to have a real nervous breakdown after, I went to DR Congo, Burundi, Rwanda, and I was seeing all these challenges of women crying and all the gruesome acts on their lives. And then you come back and then you find certain things in the office, and then you go back home, and then there are responsibilities that you have an infant family. So all that comes to you, and you are the one who is supposed to take care of everything. And you almost at this age of a nervous breakdown. So I'm happy we had a moment to talk about this.
Me too. Thank you, Justina. And one last comment, Karima. It won't be the last comment. We'll all have time to talk a lot more about these things.
I'd like to say that I do feel that I have on my plate constantly more, really, than is always more than can be done. And I'm managing it, and I can't really let go of anything. I don't want to. It's a decision. I don't want to. I have my 2 jobs. I have 2 CCs that are really in my free time. So it's in the evenings and the weekends, the CCs, the volunteer work comes, and family, this kind of devastating things like Libyan situation where people are hungry, etc., etc. So, but something I'm holding, I like I know I was saying, I do my yoga practice. That's important for me. Even if it's 12 at night, I do my prayer and and meditation. So that helps me. Even if it's late and I get less sleep, I do it. And the other thing that I'm somehow holding as a question is, how could I possibly bring, I long for play. I miss play so much. I don't have time for play, and I wonder how I can bring more playfulness into my work. Maybe that could be possible. So
that is
having more playful attitude for the daily.
That is an excellent question, and let's get back to that, because I think that's really important. When we were working, nonstop at Piedmont Peace Project, and everybody was volunteering every night, and it was really crazy. We were able to, take a break and do dancing and music and singing and in the middle of our work, and it really helped build community. So it was while we were in the work that we were kind of nurturing the whole community as well as ourselves. Yeah, so thank you for that. And I wanted to end this session with this quote that I really love. It is, an empty lantern provides no light. Self-care is the fuel that allows your light to shine brightly. So if we don't take some time to refuel, we'll eventually burn out. Which is where that term comes from. So thank you for this discussion, and we're going to start looking more at solutions. So thank you. So I wanted to do a little energy exercise here, and it'll be really interesting to see how this works in a group. So we need to kind of sit up and put your hands together and rub them really quickly until they get really warm. And then feel the energy here. Feel the energy. Can you feel it? Do you feel that energy? See how far you can go out with it. Yeah. If you need to, you can rub again, but do you feel that energy? And if we were in a group, we could put our hands to each other and feel each other's energy. But pull it over. See how far you can feel it, and how far can you go out and still feel it. When I first started, I couldn't get much further than this. And then as I've worked with energy, I've been able to and then bring this into your heart. Bring this energy into your heart. So, is everybody able to feel this? Feel the energy? What is that? What is that invisible energy we're feeling? Anyone know? It's our life force. Yes?
Yeah.
Karima?
Yeah, it feels like life energy and presence.
Yes.
Being alive, being alive.
Yeah. So we have this energy around us. And I've tried to do this before when I was super depleted, and it's really hard to feel. And so, and this is what we put out to other people. So, and imagine us taking this around the world to each other, to Germany, to Africa, to India, to Israel, to all around the world, Europe. Thank you.
Linda, can we take a minute to just give it to each other?
Yes, please do. Yes. I'm going to look at each face as I do it. Thank you. That's wonderful. Okay. So we're going to talk just a couple minutes about self-care and the culture around the world of self-care. And this can be both geographic. How is self-care perceived in your country, in your region? Or it could be demographic. How is it considered between men and women, between people of color, between ages? How do we see, how is self-care talked about in your cultures? And I know in the US, there's a certain group of people, tend to be middle class, tend to be mostly white, who think about self-care. But as a country, we don't have a culture of self-care. The US is one of the few or only developed nations that actually don't require employers to offer vacation or sick leave. And so a fourth of Americans who work have no paid vacation or paid holidays. And then more middle-class workers have an average of maybe 10 days a year, whereas in European countries and many other countries, they give 20 days a year. And my wife, who's a nurse, only gets 5 paid days a year. And she's often required to work those. They give her a bonus for working them, but she had to work Thanksgiving, Christmas, because you know, all holidays, but they don't give her other days off. It'd be nice if they gave her other days off. And then my friend, my best friend, who's a therapist and she runs an addiction center, they only give her 2 holidays a year. And that's very common in the United States. It's also very class divided, and that often goes along with race divisions as well in this country, that low-income working class folks usually do not get any kinds of vacations. It tends to be more middle-class folks. And so I wonder if a couple people could speak to, is their country, what their experience is their culture around not thinking about self-care where you are or in your group, your constituency. We just have a couple minutes, but I thought it'd be good to touch on this. YouTube?
Yes. Well, in India, as far as Indian context is there, like we have a tradition of self-care in the sense, like there are so many. I mean, people are much more religious oriented, and There are so many rituals and festivals and holidays. We are lucky to have a lot of number of holidays, official holidays, I would say. But I would say the cultural aspect is that, like, whether it is a Buddhist or a Muslim or a Hindu, um, everyone has certain kind of, like, a time period, maybe in a day or in a week or something like that, which really gives them their own space and time to understand their family, their own self, or their neighborhood, or something like that. And secondly, we have a tradition of, like, like kind of celebration. It's not individualistic. It is not like limited to one nuclear family or something. It's like mostly a joint celebration. So I think that aspects in urban places, like, metropolitan cities, it is changing. As you said, like, people are more career oriented, and they don't want to excel. They don't want to take off, for the family. They miss their family. Sometimes they stay away from their, dear
Right.
ones. So um, it differs, but mostly I would say we have a very strong culture of assimilation, and also like sharing, and collective
That's
celebration.
great. Really
Yes.
great. Thank you. Yeah. Who else would like to say what their culture? Biswadad.
Yeah, just what exactly Kutub said, but recently, not recently, like in the Eastern India, we work with so many tribal people, the largest tribal communities, perhaps in the plateau of West Bengal and the eastern part of India. And their self-care, it's very interesting because that's the ancient living of self-care. I mean, it's not so much physical individual care, but self-care in the sense of if their trees are okay, their landscapes is okay, if they have enough fruits around, the trees around, the natures and the harvestings is okay, and the festival participations, they find it's more, it is being taken care of. If
Yeah.
there all elements of the nature are in really in unity, then mean we are all fine. And it's been proven that so many modern healthcare these days, if you visit hospitals, then you would find very less tribal people are going for surgeries and operations and all kind of stuff. So it has been proven. It has been always
That's
scientifically proven.
amazing.
So yeah, so that is like truly the communal living in the self-care, like as we, has been a great traditions.
Beautiful. They continue to be such a lesson to us, and their ancient ways are so full of wisdom. I appreciate that. Community it's kind of like we're all in self-care together. I love that.
So for us, I should say, maybe Karen has something different and Mahamud, but I can say that in Africa, it differs. Like in some countries, for example, in my country, when you give birth, you allowed you to stay home officially like for 3 months, which I find a bit ridiculous, because I don't think a woman would have recuperated after 3 months. But I like the cultural aspect of self-care, where it is about dancing and music. So like you can't detach an African from music and dancing. It's like a way of life. We can't be there without dancing, without music. So there is that inner healing that comes from us singing and dancing. It's a part of life. So whatever is going on around the world and within our communities, when we have a moment to together, we dance, we sing.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Despina. And we'll take one last comment, Anaway.
Okay, with this question, I realized that in the past, like 15 years ago, Venezuelan people have ways to self-care because most of the population is like musicians. We love music, to dance. And we have beaches, beautiful beaches, very close. So we used to go to the beach and to enjoy. And I realize now with this question that one of the biggest problems since 15 years ago from now is that people don't have time. They are like losing this self-care because they don't have time, because of the insecurity, because the problem to find foods and to make big lines that take you the whole day or a big part of your day. So I realize now that one of the things that I feel in the ambience of this sadness and this hunger is that people that we are losing, not because of us, but because of the situation, we are losing this self-care that we used to have.
Yeah. And I bet, because what Deb said, there's science behind this, is I bet there's a lot more illness, a lot of more sickness because of that. That's what I notice in the United States. So thank you for that. So we're going to switch to what self-care might look like for you. And I want you to take a minute or two to maybe just jot down a few things that you do or wish you did for self-care. And then we're going to break it into small groups and share that with each other. Take about 2 or 3 minutes each to share your list. And what we're going to do is generate a list of self-care practices. So whoever in your group is going to make this list for the group, just write down one idea per. I mean, if 3 people do dancing, just write down dancing as one thing. And we'll share the list when we come back. So I'm going to give you a couple minutes in silence.
And what do you want us to write down?
A list of things you do for self-care or wish you did for self-care.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to put you into small groups to share your list. And if you can get one person to make a synthesized list of all the different things, then we'll share those when we come back out together, just to begin to get some ideas of how we can do self-care. Okay? So Tony's going to be putting you into groups of 3 or 4 people, and you'll have about 10 minutes. Okay? Good.
can understand what the time we had.
Oh, gosh.
Good. Okay. So the way I'd like to do this so everybody gets a chance is for, how many groups do we have, Tony? 4?
4.
So 4 groups. Who wants to be group 1?
We can go. It's fine.
Okay,
Then we're done.
Karen. And then group 2?
Best idea if you're speaking.
Despina's group 2, Subi's group 3, and who's in group 4? Monica. Okay, so what I'm going to ask you to do is only say one thing that you did for self-care. We'll capture it and go to this group 2, 3, and 4, and then we'll come back and you can keep reading off your list until we've exhausted everything that people said, okay? Does that make sense? All right, group 1, what's your first one?
Sleep.
Sleep, great. Group 2?
Dance.
Dance. Group 3?
Long showers.
Long showers. Okay. And group 4, Monica?
Getting a gift for myself.
Getting a gift for yourself. Love that. Group 1? Karen?
Sing, play music.
Okay, sing and play music. Despina?
It was singing, but it's there. So watching comedy.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
Watching comedy.
Watching comedy, great. Group 3?
Listening to music.
Listening to music. Okay, great. Group 4, Monica.
Journaling.
Journaling. Okay. Karen?
Chanting mantras.
Mantras, great. Despina?
Humor.
Humor. Karima?
Have a relaxed long breakfast on a weekend.
Relax long practice on a weekend.
Or whenever.
Yeah. But weekends tend to be the time you get to do that. Monica?
Do nothing. Whether it's in nature or watching TV or whatever, but just do nothing.
Do nothing, like in nature or TV. Karen?
Be in nature. Swim, forest.
Okay.
Laughter.
Laughter. Yay.
Humor, comedy. We can see a theme here, Despina.
That's fabulous. Karima?
Look out of the window.
Look out the window. The window where I sit most is filled with bird feeders, so I see a lot of birds. I'll add bird watching. Monica?
Time with friends, really good conversations in community.
Time with friends, great. Karen?
Calling on the sisters for support.
Great.
Meditation.
Meditation. Karima?
Reading books.
Yes. Monica?
Time away from the phone.
Turn off the phone. Used to we could get time away from the phone. Now we take the phone with us everywhere. Okay. Who's next? Karen?
Go for a massage.
I was going to say that one. And that is for Abraham, and he says oil massage, to be specific.
Yes, Ayurvedic massage with Abraham. That's the
oil
one.
massage. Okay, so if that is taken, then there is walking.
Walking?
Yeah.
Okay. Karima?
Remember how I played as a child.
I'm sorry, I interrupted. What?
Remember how and what I played as a child.
Oh, how I played as a child. Wow. Monica?
Eating good food and really tasting it and enjoying it.
Good food, tasting it and enjoying it, yes. Someone recently told me that the food tastes a lot better in your mouth than it does in your stomach. As I was saying, I need to chew my food more. I was like, that's so true. Karen?
No, that's our list. Thank you. We're done.
Okay. Justina?
Right? Writing?
Writing, did you say?
Yes.
Writing,
Yes.
yes. Karima, anything else?
Sit in the sun or at the beach and look at the sea.
Sitting at the sun or at the beach. Monica, anything left?
Three more things on our list that exercise or yoga, time in service beyond what we do in our work, but something in addition, a volunteer kind of a thing or serving someone else. And even though music has been mentioned a lot, art and museums.
Okay, so
either creating art or viewing art.
Okay, so we have three here, Tony. So service beyond work, and then art, doing or what was the word you said?
Doing
it or creating. Okay, yeah.
Doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
What else do you have left on your list, Espina?
Listening to music, I think that is captured.
Yep.
Great conversation is the last one.
Great conversations, yes. And Karima, do you have anything left?
I think we have covered it.
Okay. This is an amazing list. Thank you so much.
There is one more. Listen to the radio.
Yeah. So
bubble baths.
With this, we're going to actually go into a break and take about a 5-minute break to bio and get something to drink if you need it or a snack, and come back because we're going to dive deeply into our own self-practice when we get back. So, all right. Thank you so much.
Mute.
But I think it's also okay to go ahead, Linda. That's my opinion.
I think so too.
Yeah. We can, but this is the visioning exercise, so it's really hard to start without people there. So we'll see if they come on in a second.
Okay.
Send a message. That's a good idea. So. We need them.
Mahmoud is there.
Maria?
Okay, there's Mahmoud. Excellent.
Great. All right.
And Maria Eugenia?
Thank you. All right, so now we're going to go into a visioning exercise. This is a guided meditation. So I'm going to ask that you close your eyes or focus softly on your candle, whichever's easiest for you. Take some deep breaths. Get comfortable. I want you to breathe in relaxation and breathe out any tension you're holding. Breathe in joy. Breathe out any sorrow. Breathe in peace. And breathe out any regrets. Breathe in a smile. And breathe out any unease. And then ask your body a question. Body, what do you need to flow freely with the vibrancy of your spirit? And body, what do you need to release? Memories of the past, the weight of the world, or anything else that bogs you down. What do you need to release? Body, how do you feel about moving from just protecting and supporting me through life to dancing through life with me? Body, what can I do to give you strength and joy? And now let's ask your heart, your inner light, your spirit, however you define it. What do you need to flow freely with the vibrancy of your spirit? Heart, what do you need to release? Memories of the past, weight of the world, or anything else that bogs you down. Heart, what do you need to release? Heart, how do you feel about moving from just protecting and supporting me to dancing through life with me? And heart, what can I do to give you strength and joy? Take a deep breath, breathing in love, breathing out any negativity. Breathing in strength, breathing out the weight of the world. Deep breath, breathing in joy. Breathing out anything that might bog you down. Now ask yourself, what activities could I do or do more of to nurture myself? What can I do more? What can I do or do more of to nurture myself? What can I do that would give me more joy? Take a deep breath. Breathe in the things that feed my soul. Breathe in the courage and strength to nurture you. Breathe in the peace and joy you feel as you commit to these intentions. Breathe in love, love for yourself. Breathe in joy. Breathe in beauty. Blessed be. Thank you. Someone has background noise that's not muted. Alice, sorry, or Karen, or thank you. Now we're going to move to a vision picture and just take a couple minutes to draw whatever came up for you, what you experienced, what did you see as your self-care, and make little images. And we're going to share these pictures or thoughts, ideas in the group when we come back. And as you look at these pictures, maybe you want to choose one or two, no more than 3 intentions that you have for the coming year out of your self-care picture. What are 1 to 3 things that you would want to do for your self-care in the coming year? Okay, we're going to go into small groups again, and we're going to take about 10 minutes to share. So not 10 minutes each, so that'll mean 2 or 3 minutes each to share and talk about your drawing and what your self-care goals are for this coming new year. Any questions? Great. So Tony's going to put you in small groups so you can share.
Becoming expert on drawing. I was not good at draw, but we're learning.
Okay, good. I'm the worst drawer, but but I know how important it is.
Every time somebody asked me to draw, I draw my tabla. That's all I did.
What do you draw?
The tabla, my drum, it's called Indian tabla. So like all I knew how to draw is my tabla. That's all.
That's good. So, all right. So I want to go into some personal reflection. I want us to take about 5 more minutes in personal reflection. And I put this chart up on the slide. Just you can draw this out for yourself, or you can put it in any order you want. But what are your intentions that you shared with folks? And this could be 1 to 3 intentions. What might get in my way? What might get in my way from being able to do that? And then what is my regular practice, daily or weekly, going to be? If I'm going to go swimming, is that 3 times a week? If I'm going to, you know, make my bed every day, that's a daily thing. And then I've put minimum self-care, and let me explain what this is. When everything gets crazy and chaotic and unstable, what does that look like? So I may say my self-care is 8 hours a day, of 8 or plus hours to sleep every day, playing drums and swimming 4 times a week. My minimum self-care when I'm traveling is going to be, I'm at least going to take my vitamins. I'm going to take my bubble bath every day, and I'm going to get at least 7 hours of sleep, because I know I don't function if I don't get at least that much. So things sometimes when you're traveling, or things are crazy, or there's disasters or chaos, or what are the minimum things that you want to make sure you do, that you make sure you can take care of yourself? So I want to give you a few minutes to just think about these 4 areas and jot them down for yourself. Okay, are people almost done? So I wanted us to have a little discussion around the things that get in our way, or the challenges, or as I was writing my own, I thought about it as what sabotages me from doing my self-care. So I'd love to just hear from a couple people. What are some things that sabotage you from doing your own self-care?
Linda, for me, it's like shortage of time. Sometimes it is very difficult to manage time for self-care due to some urgency or some activities at work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, shortage of time. So what would people say about how they deal with shortage of time? That's a hard one.
I think Inouye had her hand.
Inouye and Karen. If you click on the raise your hand button, I can see it much better from my screen. So thank you. But Inouye?
No, I think I didn't understand.
I'm asking, so she said that not enough time. YouTube said not enough time, shortage of time. And I'm asking people if they have any thoughts about how to deal with that one, because I think that's one of the hardest ones that often sabotage our ability to take care of self.
So I understood.
Yeah.
Because I put too much work.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that.
Too much work.
I think too much work is related that don't having time to do all the things that I have to do daily.
Yeah. So do people have ideas of solutions for too much time, too much work, too much shortage of time? Any thoughts about that? Sari?
One thing that I have been challenging myself, because I often feel the same way, and this is not always going to work, but is to really ask myself when I start feeling like I don't have enough time, is this actually urgent and important, or does it just feel that way? Because I think it's easy for me at least to get into a perfectionist mentality or an overachieving, mentality where something feels important, but if I take a step back, either it's not important or it's not urgent. And so really trying to, just take a moment to ask myself that. And then one other practice that someone shared with me, I haven't totally figured out how to apply it for myself, but I'll share it just in case it makes sense to somebody else, but is just trying to figure out where our different responsibilities intersect. And so, for example, the person who was telling me about this said, well, you want to get outside more and you want to sing more and you want to, move your body. And so why don't you find a choir that you can join and you can walk, there. So just finding ways that, that wasn't a practical thing for me, but finding ways that different responsibilities can intersect.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. That's a good one. Alice? And here's Wadeb.
I often feel that I don't have enough time, and it came up for me as I was doing this. And so my solution was to, instead of saying, so I had been thinking I will stretch every day. And then I thought, that's crazy. Sometimes I'm too tired. I don't have enough time. So then I thought, okay, maybe I can just do something every day that's self-care. It could be stretching if I have time and if I have energy. But if it's not, then I have to think of something else. It's a shorter thing. So then maybe I focus on my breathing for a minute and call it self-care. So if I don't have enough time, find a shorter thing to do.
Yeah, great. Sharon?
The one thing that I've taught myself to do is to do first things first. So really look, I think it's that urgent and important, I guess. And I just have a task list of what needs to be done. And some of that's personal, some of that's work, some of that's like whatever it is. And then just look at it and say, what's the first thing that has to be done, no matter what, and then do that and get done. And when the first thing's first, then suddenly I start to relax, and it's amazing. I get through it so much quicker and I think I don't have time, and actually then suddenly there's time to do other things even. So it works.
Right. This way, Deb.
Yeah, I think we need to look at how we work in terms of the prioritizing. Many times I have found that things, we need to be very patient, treat ourselves patiently. Many times we feel things that we have to do may not be the priority. So many times we get caught into really overdoing it and not having time just because we feel it that we have to do this now and not having patience. I was very privileged to meet so many people that has done amazing thing in life. And only question I ask, how is possible in one lifetime you did all of that? And one response I got is really patience.
Nice.
Is really invest things you are investing and not really see pressure things to happen next day. It would give back to you once you invest. So, same thing I asked my dad, how much, he was a great yogi. I said, how is possible for you to achieve this? And he said, be patient. Things will happen. All you need to do is patiently treat yourself and also be patient things you are doing. So the prioritizing thing, what Karen says, to really put down things and prioritize your self-care.
That's great. And I think Alice's idea too of doing shorter amounts of things and figuring out how to do that, like doing a little meditation when you go to the bathroom, which speaks to Sari's place of connecting the different things. One of my New Year's resolution was to clean out my closet, and I couldn't figure out a day to do that. So I decided I'd do one drawer at a time. And I've been doing that, and it's really working. And sometimes I have time to do another drawer or another piece of that. So that's also a really good thing. So thank you all. What's another thing that kind of gets in our way from doing our self-care? Monica?
Old habits and thinking patterns. You tell yourself you can't do this. You tell yourself this is how it's been. And so getting into some new habits or just looking at it as an old thought.
Okay. Any thoughts about that? Sari?
Just one little thing that I found, because I'm the same way, until I make something a habit, it's really easy to fall away, is I have an app on my phone called Habit Tracker, and it asks me every day if I've done it. And if I did it, I get to check the box. And if I didn't, I don't get to check the box. And so it's just a small reminder, but also a gratification. And I can see, oh, I've done this 5 days in a row. It's just something that helped me to sort of form habits.
And it's called Habit Tracker.
Habit Tracker. There's a lot of different ones out there, so you can find one that works for you.
Great. Karen, you had one.
I wanted to say that. No, I wanted to say that WhatsApp messages are overwhelming, or messages or phone, because there's all these groups, and we've got loads of groups in our region, and then staff group, and then obviously there's other things and personal, whatever, and the WhatsApp messages are just overflowing. And the phone beeps, and so it takes your attention, and the phone beeps and takes. So I've learned my phone goes on silent, so sometimes I won't answer anything for a couple of hours, and and the only thing I've got is on a couple of numbers, I've got emergency bypass. And so then if it's really an emergency, you're dying, you're in a car accident, or the world's coming to an end, someone will phone me. But otherwise, if you WhatsApp me, that's not urgent. If you're really urgent, you'll call me. And that's how I've learned to manage the phone. But some days it just drives me crazy.
Yeah. I think we talked in another session about how to silence our phones for periods of time, because one little interruption takes your mind off track for 15 minutes, and it's a big time eater. So that's a really great one. One more? Alice?
I just wanted to mention, I'm not sure if you saw it, Tony picked it up, that in the chat, Mahmoud had said that planning things from the small to the big. I think that was probably in response to not having enough time.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to make sure that.
Good, good. So, plan things from the small to the big. That's great.
I think one challenge is like when so many of us are dealing with burnout of varying degrees. One thing I heard was when we were describing our burnout was like a tiredness or a tendency to procrastinate or for small things to feel big. And so it's like these things then are amplified, like they can feel hard, you know, or forming good habits takes energy, even if those habits in the long term are good for us. So I also think for me, part of it is like just having grace with myself, because I don't want self-care to turn into something that then also I beat myself up about not doing well enough.
Right.
And so it's just that balance between like setting the intention and also having grace for ourselves.
That's wonderful. Thank you. That's really important. One of the things that takes me off track is when I'm traveling. And one thing I do is I carry a beautiful little cloth, and I carry a little mini candle that's in a metal can like this. And I have a flat vase that you fill up with hot water and it forms itself. And I put flowers, I get flowers locally and put in it. And it just helps me keep centered when I'm traveling to try to remember and focus on my own self and self-care. So that's a thought. I have a little thing that it can all fit into, and it's very lightweight and makes my hotel room beautiful. And it's bringing a little piece of, and I also travel with my blanket and pillow. I used to travel really lightweight. The older I get, the more weight I've added to my suitcase. So, any other thoughts? One last thought.
Please would have added something in the chat.
Yeah, it's just
family obligations get in the way. Yeah.
That's pretty much for me. You know, like when I try to play tabla for self-care, and then my daughter come and said she needed to go to the tuitions, and her ride didn't arrive, so I had to take her. So like, I'm just 5 minutes starting, and you have to go, leave. It's very pathetic.
Yeah, that's a hard one. That's really hard. But other thoughts might be to also get your kids to help play the drums with you. I used to always, even on task, I would try to involve my kids in doing the fun things with me as well as the work things. So, and make it all a game. So, in a way.
Okay, it is related to Visa Web, but maybe I'm very peaceful and come my family with problems, with people that surround me with problems. So for me, this something that get in my way.
Gotcha. And that's a hard one, family obligations. I wrote that on my list too. But I think if we know that's going to happen and try to figure out when the least, like, can I play my drums when they're all at school? Or, you know, how do I find that little secret space of time? Any other ideas? Okay, this is great. Keep looking at, you know, your solutions, and if you think of anything else, email it and we'll send it out with this list to the group. So we're going to move to a closing. So for our closing, I just learned this exercise yesterday, and it's inspired by a beautiful woman named Ebony Golden. And put your hands up to your face and kind of cup around your breath. Feel your breath. Feel the warmness. And breathe one of your intentions into your hands. Breathe it. Feel it in your hands. Feel the warm energy. And then bring it up and put it into your head. That intention, keep that intention in your head, in your mind. Bring it down your arms and hug it into your heart. Let's do that again. Breathe an intention. It can be a different one or the same one. Feel that warmth. Bring it up to your head, down your neck, into your arms. You can even take it down your legs if you want. And bring that into your heart. And one last time, in case you have 3 intentions. Breathe in. Breathe out into your hands, I mean. That beautiful intention of self-care. Bring it in and rub it in. Down your arms, into your heart. Nice, nice. So we have 3 minutes left. I just want to, Tony has put the link to the evaluation in chat. And I'm going to ask a big favor of everyone to fill out this evaluation because it's a very new kind of workshop for me. And I really want to hear back from people what worked, what didn't, and how you would improve it and if it helped you. So any last, and someone had asked in the chat, but we will send you those beautiful quotes and you'll get a copy of the recording to share with others or to look at again when you need a refresher on self-care. Any comments or thoughts in our last 2 minutes here with each other? Appreciations for, yes, Alice.
I would just wanted to say again what I heard you say at the beginning, which is to encourage people to think about if there's any piece from today that makes sense for you to share with anybody else. Volunteers, CC members, colleagues. A question that you heard, an exercise, a quote, could be a great excuse for exchange with somebody. And that's true every time we get together as a group.
Right, right. Thank you, Alice.
Thank you all.
NOA?
I want to thank you, Linda, because the go inside and the meditate inside is not easy, and I think you are right to do it here. And thank you to my colleagues for the ideas they gave me for my inner peace. Thank you, all of you.
Thank you. Mahamud, do you have something?
No, I have a great day today. It's the first day that I finished the training, so it was very experienced.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. I wish you all goodbye. Have a blessed day and week and year. And it'll be exciting to hear back from y'all of what you get to implement in your self-care. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for a lovely session.
Much love to everyone.
Bye,
Thank you,
everyone.
Linda.
Thank you.